The text came through while I was signing the final papers at the title company. My hands were still shaking from excitement when I saw her name flash across the screen. Heard you bought some little apartment. Don't let it go to your head. Pride comes before a fall, Vanessa. My mother. Always finding the perfect moment to drain the joy from my accomplishments before I could even fully taste them. I had just closed on a 2-bedroom condo in downtown Seattle. Not a mansion by any stretch, but it was mine. Completely and utterly mine. 29 years old, and I finally owned something that belonged only to me, that no one could take away. The real estate agent smiled warmly as she slid the keys across the polished mahogany table. Congratulations, Miss Monroe. You should be incredibly proud of yourself. This is a huge milestone. I wanted to be proud. I had worked 3 grinding years of double shifts as a dental hygienist, saved every bonus check, skipped every vacation my friends took, and budgeted every dollar down to the last cent. I had sacrificed so much to reach this moment. I had done this completely alone without anyone's help or handouts. But that text message sat on my phone like an ugly stain spreading across clean fabric, spoiling everything it touched. I didn't respond. I had learned years ago that responding only gave her more ammunition to use against me later. I drove to my new place in a daze, my emotions tangled between excitement and that familiar dread my mother always inspired. I parked in my assigned spot, number 17, right near the entrance, and walked through the door of my own home for the first time as its actual owner. The afternoon light poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows like liquid gold. Everything smelled like fresh paint, new carpet, and pure possibility. The space was empty except for the boxes I had moved in yesterday. Bare walls. Bare floors. But it was beautiful in its emptiness because it was a blank canvas waiting for me to make it into something extraordinary. Then my phone rang, shattering the peaceful moment. I stared at her name on the screen, my thumb hovering over the decline button. I let it ring through to voicemail. I wasn't ready to let her poison this moment any more than she already had with that text message. The voicemail notification appeared almost immediately. Against my better judgment, I played it. Vanessa, it's your mother. I hope you're not getting too big for your britches with this whole condo situation. Remember who raised you through all those difficult years. Remember who sacrificed absolutely everything so you could have opportunities one never had. Don't forget where you came from just because you have a mortgage payment now. I played it twice, searching desperately for even the smallest hint of congratulations buried somewhere in the guilt and criticism. There was absolutely none. My name is Vanessa Harper. I'm 29 years old, a dental hygienist at Sonomi Dental Group, and for the first time in my entire life, I was beginning to see my mother with complete and devastating clarity. Not as the sacrificing saint she had always claimed to be in every conversation, but as someone who genuinely needed me to stay small, manageable, and under her control. Growing up under her roof had been an endless exercise in managing her moods and expectations. Every achievement I earned came packaged with a warning label attached. Good grades meant I was getting cocky and full of myself. Landing my first real job meant I thought I was too good for family now. Moving out at 22 meant I was cruelly abandoning her in her time of need. She had systematically spent my entire life making absolutely sure I never flew too high, never reached too far, never outgrew her sphere of influence. But this condo was fundamentally different from anything before. This was something she couldn't touch, couldn't claim, couldn't control. It was registered in my name only. I had signed every single document myself. I had qualified for the mortgage loan based entirely on my own credit score and my own income. She had contributed exactly nothing. For once in my life, she had absolutely no claim to any part of my success. That reality should have felt completely liberating, like finally breaking free from chains I had worn so long I forgot they were even there. Instead, I felt a strange, crawling anxiety settling into my stomach like ice water. She showed up unannounced exactly 3 days later, just as I had somehow known she would. I was on my hands and knees assembling a bookshelf from a pile of confusing instructions and scattered hardware when the doorbell rang sharply. I looked through the peephole and saw her standing there, wearing her church clothes and holding a potted plant that already looked half dead. My stomach immediately dropped like an elevator with cut cables. I opened the door slowly, carefully. "Mom, I wasn't expecting you to come by." She pushed past me without waiting for any kind of invitation, her shoulder brushing roughly against mine. Well, I wanted to see this famous condo everyone keeps talking about like it's some kind of palace. Everyone. I had told exactly 3 people about buying it. My best friend Chloe, my coworker Megan, and my Aunt Diane. She walked through my living room like a building inspector searching for code violations, running her finger along the windowsill to check for dust, opening my kitchen cabinets without asking permission, checking the water pressure in my bathroom sink with a critical expression. It's smaller than I imagined from how you described it, she said finally, her tone dripping with disappointment. I stood awkwardly in the doorway with my arms crossed defensively. It's absolutely perfect for my needs. She turned slowly to face me, one eyebrow raised in that expression I knew too well. For you? Yes. I suppose it is adequate for you. The way she emphasized those words made my skin prickle uncomfortably, like insects crawling up my arms. My mother walked directly into my bedroom without asking, as if she owned the place herself. She opened my closet door, looked critically at my hanging clothes, then closed it again with a disapproving click of her tongue that echoed in the quiet room. You're still buying cheap brands, I see. Some things never change, do they? I followed behind her, feeling exactly like a child being inspected and found wanting. I'm trying to save money where I can, Mom. That's just being financially responsible. She laughed, that sharp, cutting laugh I had heard 1,000 times growing up. Save money for what exactly? You just spent absolutely everything you had on this place, didn't you? That wasn't remotely true. I had a healthy emergency fund sitting safely in my savings account. I had 3 months of expenses carefully set aside. But she didn't need to know the actual details of my financial situation. She had lost that privilege long ago. She sat down heavily on my bed without being invited, then looked around my bedroom with a critical eye that missed nothing. You know, when I was exactly your age, I didn't have these kinds of opportunities handed to me. I had to struggle and fight for every single thing. I had to sacrifice constantly. Here it comes, I thought wearily. The same script she had been performing my entire life. I gave up absolutely everything to raise you properly, she continued, her voice taking on that martyred tone I knew so well. And now you're out here playing house like you've actually made something of yourself. My jaw tightened painfully. I did work extremely hard for this, Mom. So did I, she snapped sharply, her eyes flashing with sudden anger. But you don't see me bragging about my sacrifices to everyone who will listen. I wanted to scream at her that I hadn't bragged about anything. I had simply existed. I had simply succeeded at something difficult. I had simply achieved a goal I had worked toward for years. But in her twisted worldview, my success was somehow a personal betrayal of her, an insult to everything she had supposedly done for me. She stood up abruptly, smoothing her skirt with sharp, jerky movements. Just remember, Vanessa, pride always comes before a fall. Don't get too comfortable in this place. Then she walked out of my bedroom, out of my condo, and back to her car without another word. No hug goodbye. No genuine congratulations. No warmth whatsoever. Just a cold warning delivered like a curse. I stood frozen in my living room, listening to her car engine start and fade into the distance. The potted plant she had brought sat wilting on my kitchen counter, a succulent that looked like it hadn't been watered in weeks. The silence after she left felt heavier than her presence had been. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in my new bed in my new bedroom staring at the unfamiliar ceiling, her words echoing endlessly in my mind like a song I couldn't stop hearing. Don't get too comfortable. What did that even mean? Was it simply a warning? Or was it something darker? A threat of things to come? I had a sinking feeling I would find out soon enough. But before I continue with what happened next, if you are enjoying this story, please like and share. The next morning arrived too quickly. My supervisor, Patricia, called me into her office before my first patient appointment. My heart immediately sank before she even opened her mouth to speak. Vanessa, I need to talk to you about something rather unusual that happened yesterday, she said carefully, her expression uncomfortable. I sat down slowly in the chair across from her desk. Hey, what happened? She looked genuinely uncomfortable now, shifting papers on her desk. We received a phone call yesterday afternoon. From someone claiming to be your mother. My stomach instantly turned to ice, cold and hard. What did she say? Patricia took a deep breath. She said she was extremely concerned about your well-being and mental state. That you had made a major financial decision without consulting your family first, and she was worried about your judgment and stability. She asked if we had noticed any changes in your behavior at work recently. I stared at her, completely unable to form words. My hands gripped the leather armrests so tightly my knuckles turned white. She specifically asked if you seemed stressed, if you were making mistakes, if other staff members had expressed concerns about you, Patricia continued gently. I bought a condo, I finally managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. That's what she's talking about. I bought my own place with my own money. Patricia nodded sympathetically. I figured it was something like that. I told her very clearly that we don't discuss our employees with outside parties under any circumstances. But I wanted you to know this happened so you're aware. I felt completely humiliated, furious, and violated all at once. Thank you so much for telling me, Patricia. I really appreciate it. She gave me a genuinely sympathetic look. For what it's worth, Vanessa, congratulations on the condo. That's a massive accomplishment, especially at your age. You should be incredibly proud. I nodded mechanically, but the words barely registered through the ringing in my ears. My mother had actually called my workplace. She had tried to sabotage my professional reputation. She had attempted to make me look unstable and incompetent to my employer. This was a completely new level of interference even for her. I sat in my car in the parking lot during my lunch break, my whole body shaking with rage and disbelief. I called my best friend Chloe immediately. She did what? Chloe shouted so loudly into the phone I had to pull it away from my ear. I repeated the entire story, my voice flat and hollow with shock. Vanessa, that's not normal mother behavior. That's not even close to normal. That's straight up harassment, maybe even criminal, Chloe said firmly. She's my mother, I said weakly, as if that somehow explained or excused everything. I don't care if she's the President of the United States. You absolutely cannot call someone's employer and try to make them look mentally unstable. That's insane. Chloe was right. I knew deep down she was completely right. But I also knew my mother better than anyone. She would deny everything. She would twist the facts. She would somehow make herself the victim and paint me as the ungrateful, cruel daughter. What do? I asked helplessly. Chloe was quiet for a long moment, thinking. You document absolutely everything. Every call, every text message, every unannounced visit. You build a complete case. A case for what exactly? For when you finally need to protect yourself legally. Because Vanessa, this is going to get worse before it gets better. People like your mom don't just stop. I didn't fully believe her then. I wanted to think my mother would eventually calm down, that this was just a temporary reaction to change. I was wrong. Chloe's advice would end up saving me in ways I couldn't imagine yet. I started a folder on my laptop that same evening. I titled it simply, Evidence. It felt dramatic and paranoid, like something from a crime show. But I added the voicemail recording anyway. I copied and pasted all her text messages. I wrote down detailed notes about her unannounced visit. I documented exactly what Patricia had told me about the phone call, just in case I ever needed proof of the pattern. For exactly 2 weeks after that incident, my mother went completely silent. No phone calls. No text messages. No surprise visits to my condo. I started to cautiously relax. Maybe she had finally moved on. Maybe she had realized she had crossed a serious line and backed off. I should have known better. The call came from the front desk at my dental office on a Thursday afternoon. I was between patients reviewing charts. Vanessa, this is Amanda at the front desk. We had someone call today asking very specific questions about your employment status here. My blood ran cold instantly. Who was it? She said she was your mother. She wanted to verify that you still work here full-time and asked questions about how much you make annually. I closed my eyes, fighting down the wave of nausea. What did you tell her, Amanda? Absolutely nothing. We can't legally release any of that information to anyone. But I definitely wanted you to know this happened. I thanked her and hung up, my hands trembling badly. My mother was digging into my financial life now. She was trying to find out exactly how much I earned. But why? What was she planning? What did she need that information for? That night, following an instinct I couldn't quite explain, I logged into my credit monitoring account and pulled my full credit report. And I found something that made my heart stop completely in my chest. There was a recent inquiry on my report. Very recent, from just 3 days ago. From a major credit card company. and it listed my new condo address as the applicant's residence. My mother had tried to open a credit card account using my new address to make her application look more stable and established. To use my good credit and my property ownership to boost her chances of approval. She hadn't asked my permission. She hadn't mentioned it. She hadn't even told me she was planning to do this. She had committed identity fraud. Against her own daughter. I sat staring at the computer screen for over an hour, barely breathing as the full weight of what she had done settled over me like a suffocating blanket. Part of me desperately wanted to call her immediately. To scream and demand an explanation. To make her admit what she had done. But another part of me, the part that was finally, slowly waking up to reality, knew that direct confrontation wouldn't accomplish anything productive. She would lie smoothly to my face. She would gaslight me. She would deny everything and somehow flip the entire situation around until I was the bad guy, the paranoid one, the ungrateful daughter making false accusations. I needed to be significantly smarter than that this time. I called the credit card company first thing the next morning and reported the inquiry as fraudulent. They flagged it immediately and assured me no actual account had been successfully opened, which brought some relief. Then I placed a comprehensive fraud alert on my entire credit file to prevent any future unauthorized applications. And then I did something I had never done in my entire life. I called a lawyer and scheduled a consultation. The consultation was free for the first 30 minutes. I walked into his office feeling like I was betraying my own family, but I pushed that guilt aside. I explained everything systematically. The pattern of unannounced visits, the call to my workplace, the credit card inquiry, the years of control and manipulation. The attorney Marcus Chen. Wait, I couldn't use that name. The attorney Marcus Brennan listened carefully, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. Has she contributed any money financially to your condo purchase? He asked directly. Not a single dollar. Not 1 cent. Then she has absolutely zero legal claim to the property. But what she's doing with the credit inquiry, that's identity theft. You could absolutely press criminal charges if you wanted to. The words hung heavy in the air between us. Press charges. Against my own mother. I'm not ready to take that step yet, I said quietly, my voice shaking slightly. He nodded understandingly. Then my advice is to document absolutely everything going forward. Keep meticulous records. If this situation escalates further, you'll need solid proof. I left his office feeling simultaneously empowered and terrified. I had options now. I had knowledge. But I also had the weight of knowing just how bad things could potentially get. My mother finally called me the next day. I almost let it go to voicemail, but I knew avoiding her forever wasn't a realistic option. Vanessa, why haven't you been returning my calls? She demanded immediately. I hadn't received any other calls from her. I checked my phone log carefully. Nothing. I've been really busy, Mom. Work has been intense. Too busy for your own mother? That condo has really changed you, hasn't it? You're becoming someone I don't even recognize. I took a long, deep breath, steeling myself. Mom, did you try to open a credit card using my address? Complete silence on the other end of the line. Then after several long seconds, a dismissive laugh. What are you even talking about? Why would I do something like that? I received an alert from my credit monitoring service. Someone used my condo address on a recent credit card application. Well, it certainly wasn't me. I can't believe you would accuse me of something like that. Why would I need to do that? Her voice was so smooth, so convincing, so perfectly innocent sounding. If I didn't have the actual documentation sitting right in front of me, I might have actually believed her performance. I'm just asking, Mom. Just trying to understand what happened. You're not asking, Vanessa. You're accusing your own mother of being some kind of criminal. There's a significant difference. She hung up abruptly, leaving me sitting there with the dead phone pressed against my ear. I sat there for several minutes, phone in hand, realizing something absolutely crucial. My mother would never ever admit to anything she had done wrong. Not ever. Which meant I had to completely stop expecting accountability or honesty from her. I had to stop hoping she would suddenly become the mother I needed. I had to start protecting myself instead, regardless of how that made me feel. 2 days later, she showed up at my condo again unannounced. This time I made a different choice. I didn't let her in. She knocked loudly, repeatedly, her fist pounding on the door. Vanessa, open this door right now. I know you're in there. I stood on the other side, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Mom, I need space right now. Please leave. Space? From your own mother? What has gotten into you? This is absolutely ridiculous. I just need some time to think. Please respect that. She knocked even harder, the sound echoing through my condo. If you don't open this door immediately, I'm calling the police. I'll tell them you're having some kind of mental breakdown and need help. My hands started shaking. She would absolutely do it. She would call the police and make a scene. I opened the door just enough to see her face through the gap, keeping the security chain engaged. She immediately pushed forward aggressively, but I held the door completely firm. Mom, you cannot keep showing up here unannounced. You have to call first. Her face twisted into an expression of pure rage. I'm your mother. I have every right to see you whenever I want. You don't get to shut me out. Yes, I do. This is my home. I get to decide who comes inside. Something in my voice, maybe the firmness, maybe the finality, must have genuinely surprised her because she actually stepped back slightly. You've changed, she said coldly, her eyes narrowing. This condo has made you selfish and cruel. I'm setting healthy boundaries, I replied as calmly as I could manage. That's not selfish. That's self-preservation. She stared at me like I had physically slapped her across the face. Then she turned sharply and walked away without saying another word, her heels clicking angrily on the hallway floor. I closed the door carefully and locked it, then engaged the deadbolt and the chain lock. My entire body was trembling violently. But I had actually done it. I had said no to her. I had enforced a boundary. I had protected my space. The emails started arriving the very next day, flooding my inbox. Long, rambling, emotional messages about how much she had sacrificed over the years. How ungrateful I was being. How I owed her everything. How she had given up her entire life to raise me alone. She copied my aunts, my cousins, even some of my old high school friends on the emails, making sure everyone could see her version of events. She was systematically building a narrative. Vanessa bought a condo and cruelly abandoned her loving, devoted mother. I didn't respond to any of the emails. But I saved every single one in a folder, adding them to my growing evidence file. My Aunt Diane called me that evening, her voice careful. Vanessa, honey, what's going on with your mom? She sent this really long email to the whole family. I explained calmly and clearly. The surprise visits. The call to my workplace. The credit inquiry. The pattern of control and manipulation that had been going on my entire life. Diane was silent for a very long moment. Oh, Vanessa. I had absolutely no idea it was that bad. She always made it sound so different. She's making me look like the villain in all of this, I said quietly. Only to people who don't know the complete story, Diane replied firmly. I believe you. And I think you're doing exactly the right thing by protecting yourself. That phone call meant more to me than she could possibly know. Because for the first time ever, someone in my family had actually taken my side. Someone had listened and believed me. I wasn't completely alone anymore. My mother's next strategic move was even more calculated than before. She posted on social media a long, heartbreaking status about how children forget their parents once they make it in life. She didn't name me specifically. She didn't have to. Everyone who knew us could read between the lines. The comments poured in within minutes. You raised her so well. She'll realize what she lost someday. This younger generation is so ungrateful. You deserve better. I watched it happen in real time, my chest tightening painfully with each new comment. Chloe texted me immediately. Do not respond. Do not engage. She wants a public fight she can screenshot and share. He was absolutely right as usual. But it hurt deeply anyway. It hurt to watch people who barely knew our actual situation judge me. It hurt to be painted as the villain in a story I didn't even recognize as my own life. That night I wrote a private post of my own. I didn't name my mother. I didn't go into specific details. I simply wrote, setting boundaries isn't abandonment. Protecting your peace isn't selfish. And sometimes the people who claim to love you the most are actually the ones who resist your growth the hardest. I posted it. Then I turned off my phone completely. When I checked it the next morning, I had over 100 messages waiting. Most of them were from people thanking me for putting feelings into words. Sharing their own similar stories. Telling me I wasn't alone in this struggle. For the first time in weeks, I felt genuinely seen and understood. My mother's reaction to my post was entirely predictable. She called me 15 times in a single hour. I didn't answer a single call. Then she sent a text message. "How dare you air our private family business online for everyone to see? You are embarrassing me in front of the entire community." I stared at the text, the irony almost funny if it wasn't so painful. She had posted first. She had made everything public first. She had invited judgment and commentary. But somehow my response was the unforgivable problem. I replied simply, "I didn't name you. If you saw yourself in my post, maybe that's something you should reflect on." Her response came instantly, "You are cruel and heartless. I raised a cruel daughter and I don't even recognize you anymore." I turned off my phone again. This constant back and forth wasn't helping anyone. It was just feeding her endless need for drama and attention. I needed to take a completely different approach going forward. I needed to build a life where her opinion didn't control my happiness anymore. And that's exactly what I started deliberately doing. I threw myself completely into making the condo truly mine, a reflection of who I actually was. I painted the bedroom a beautiful soft gray. I hung artwork I loved. I bought plants and actually learned how to keep them alive. I invited friends over for dinner parties. Slowly, steadily, the space transformed from just a condo into something more. Stopped being just a property I owned. It became my genuine sanctuary. Chloe helped me hang floating shelves one Saturday afternoon. As we worked together, she asked gently, "How are you doing with everything?" Really and truly. I thought about it carefully. I'm exhausted. But I'm also relieved in a strange way. Like I finally stopped waiting for her approval to live my life. Chloe smiled warmly. "That's real growth, Vanessa. That's you finally choosing yourself." It was true. For years and years, I had carefully shaped my entire life around my mother's reactions. I had made myself smaller to avoid triggering her jealousy. I had downplayed every achievement to keep the fragile peace. But buying this condo had broken something fundamental open inside me. I couldn't make myself small anymore. And more importantly, I didn't want to. That evening, after Chloe left, I stood in my living room and looked around at everything I had created. This was mine. Every single piece of furniture. Every paint color. Every decision. And my mother's disapproval couldn't take that away from me, no matter how hard she tried. The breakthrough at work came from a completely unexpected direction. My supervisor Patricia called me into her office again one afternoon. I braced myself automatically, expecting more bad news about my mother's interference. Instead, she smiled broadly. "Vanessa, I wanted to let you know that we're promoting you to lead hygienist. It comes with a significant raise and additional responsibilities." I stared at her, completely stunned. "Really? Are you serious?" "Absolutely. You've more than earned it. You're reliable, highly skilled, and the patients consistently request you specifically." I walked out of that office feeling like I was floating 6 inches off the ground. A promotion. A substantial raise. Recognition for my hard work. It didn't excuse what she had done. But it explained it. "I don't know if we can fix this," I said honestly. "You hurt me. A lot." "I know," she said quietly. "And I don't expect you to forgive me right away. But I want to try. I want to do better." I looked at her. Really looked at her and saw something I hadn't seen before. Regret. "If we do this," I said carefully, "things have to be different. No more surprise visits. No more calling my job. No more trying to control my life." She nodded. "I understand. And I need you to be happy for me. Really happy. Not jealous. Not competitive. Just happy." Her eyes filled with tears. "I'll try." It wasn't a perfect resolution. But it was a start. Over the next few months we rebuilt slowly. She texted before visiting. She asked about my life without making it about herself. She even congratulated me on the promotion without adding a lecture. It wasn't perfect. Old patterns surfaced sometimes. But she caught herself. And when I pointed it out, she apologized. Real apologies. Without justifications. I started to believe that maybe people could change. Not completely. Not overnight. But enough. One Saturday she came over to help me plant flowers on my balcony. As we worked side by side, she said, "This place really is beautiful, Vanessa. You did a great job." I smiled. "Thank you, Mom." She paused, then added, I'm proud of you. I should have said that a long time ago. I felt tears prick my eyes. I needed to hear that. She reached over and squeezed my hand. I'm sorry it took so long. We finished planting in comfortable silence. And for the first time in years, being with my mother didn't feel like a battle. It felt like peace. Today my condo is exactly what I dreamed it would be. A space that's entirely mine. A space filled with love and laughter and hard-won peace. My mother and I talk once a week now. Sometimes more. Sometimes less. Our relationship isn't perfect. But it's honest. She still struggles with boundaries sometimes. But she tries. And that effort matters. I learned something important through all of this. You can't control how people react to your success. But you can control how much power you give their reactions. My mother accused me of bragging when all I did was exist. She tried to sabotage me when I succeeded. But in the end, her attempts to tear me down only made me stronger. I set boundaries. I protected my peace. I built a life I'm proud of. And now when I walk through my front door, I don't feel guilt or fear. I feel gratitude. Gratitude for the struggle that taught me my worth. Gratitude for the boundaries that gave me freedom. Gratitude for the small condo that changed everything. My mother changed her tone the moment she walked through my door. Not the first time, but eventually. She saw what I had built. And finally she saw me. Not as an extension of herself. But as a person who deserved respect. That was the real victory. Not the condo. Not the promotion. But the moment I stopped shrinking myself to make her comfortable. The moment I chose myself. And discovered that choosing myself didn't mean losing her. It meant finding both of us.